Doesn't God just decree?
No, this is what he said. I'm not even joking. He says God will fill the hearts of the
righteous.
The clerics, actually, the hearts of the clerics are the right decision, and they will put the right leader who is chosen by God into power.
Okay.
But he actually believes this, and he says a leader who is, and actually before the election, he says, what people vote really doesn't matter.
He proved that, right?
God is the one who decides. And he also said, when God chooses a leader in Iran, his boundaries of his rule are not limited to Iran. They go through the whole world because he's elected by God. And I mean, Yazdi is like the fringe of the right. Even Khamenei hasn't always been, even though they're allied now against Mousavi's faction, he's always been the extreme fringe, But a lot of people are speculating whether he's moving closer to Khamenei or they're trying to use Khamenei and eventually gain power over his faction in the right. And I don't know what your thoughts on that.
No, I have to say, this sounds exactly like how I debate Pakistani politics with my Pakistani friends, which is that there are endless conspiracies about how we imagine the government is run and who is really working with whom over what issues. I just don't know the answer to any of that. I tend to think that it's less about the religious ideas and more about the money, to be quite crass about it. Right? I think that, and the religious ideas then become a cover for how the money is going to be divided and who gets to control the major industries in Iran. And right now, state-led industry is doing very, very badly. Most people believe that it should be privatized to do better. And once you have some levers loosened on state-controlled industry, they're hoping that pumps in new kinds of capital. Foreign direct investment increases massively into Iran. Iran is attempting to cut all kinds of deals with Russia, with China, with India, with France, in order to develop it, all of which are being constrained by this ridiculous, fear-mongering about the nuclear missile that Ahmedinejad is building in Qom, or some nonsense to this effect, right? It's a country which has been economically strangled for several decades by the United States. I tend to think that's what the fight is about. The fight is about how best to get out from under the weight of the United States, and less about the kinds of religious notions of, or the religious sort of backroom dealings about who will come to power and how fast and why.
Can we have one more question?
It's your show.
Just going back to that labor movement that you mentioned, is there any specific organization which would lead this labor movements at a national level, or where do they get their ideas or their strength?
Yeah, see, because I'm not in Iran, and I've actually never been, I can only recommend things that I've read which hint at this direction.
Right.
So there's a fantastic new book done by two Swedish anthropologists called Iran on the Brink, which documents what the Iranian labor movement has done over the last 3 decades, basically from 79 to the present day. It's an excellent book. Talks about both how people have organized in some very hard conditions and the networks that are being built amongst them. There are a number of far left parties in Iran that are trying to coordinate efforts between these labor movements. But it's not as though anything is crystallized, and it would be highly illegal for such a labor party to emerge right now. I think that there's some opportunities for them to do some more public and visible things currently, but it would still be a very hard fight. I think more than sort of women's organizations, the Iranian government fears the labor movement in Iran. They're definitely afraid of the women's movements because it challenges directly the authority of the Ayatollahs to say what he would like to say. But the labor movement is the thing that they are most afraid of.
I think things kind of need to cool down in terms of, you mentioned all those government crackdowns. I think once those kind of tamper off, then we might see more of a explicit organization, like more of those liberal.
Well, you got to remember that this is happening in a very unstable international context, and it may not be because of the slowing down of the protests, but actually because the war in Iraq goes very badly, that things change schemes very quickly. Or the war in Afghanistan. This is the crazy thing, right? Iran is going through this major political upheaval. To the west, you have one country being bombed by the United States. To the east, you have another country being bombed by the United States. A little bit farther, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, another country being bombed by the United States. not openly being bombed, but being bombed by the United States, right? They're creating massive instability in this region. There were this terrorist attacks that just happened in Iran that everybody's trying to figure out, do they come from Pakistan? Are they Balochis that are doing this? Why are they attacking Iran, etc.? And then, of course, you have the fight that's taking place in Yemen right now that Iran may or may not be involved with the Houthi rebels on the, right? Right, I mean, so may or may not, officially we don't know, the Iranian government won't say. And the protest, I mean, you know, the Ahmedinejad basically is trying to use the Hajj pilgrimage to do a giant middle finger to the Saudi Arabian, you know, monarchy by trying to make a political spectacle out of Hajj this year. And the Saudis have said, you know, we will shoot people if they attempt to do things on Hajj. If you can imagine what that would look like. All kinds of things could.
This happened.
Huh?
This happened during the war. Saudi killed almost 1,000 Iranian soldiers because
I would not be surprised. I don't know that part of the history.
because they tried to what do you say? They tried to they protest for Palestinian
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Saudi just killed all of the Iranian.
Well, all I mean to say is that the situation is very unstable. Despite whatever Ahmadinejad might do to crack down on the protests happening in Iran, the countries nearby are highly unstable. The United States has its own kinds of designs, and it's unclear which direction it can go. All I want to leave you with is the kind of, I hope, a healthy suspicion of Mousavi's willingness to direct this movement to its ultimate conclusion and the need for a more radical alternative to Mousavi.
Well, thank you very much.
We're almost out of time. Thank you very much.